Assalamu alaikum everyone. Ever came across reading files in Python? This tutorial will cover the topic, how to read files. There are two built-in ways. Let's start with the first method, call it open close. Essentially, we're opening a file, reading its contents, and then closing the file, all within this Python script. Let's read contents of a text file called mynotes.txt, which is kept in the same folder as our Python Jupyter notebook that we're working on. The contents of this text file has some random lines of text. To load these lines into Python, we'll go with the following code. A variable loaded file equals a function called open. Inside opens brackets is where we add a string parameter by the name of our text file, along with its file extension .txt. The second parameter of open is where we apply a mode on the loaded file. So choosing a string letter R means we chose reading mode. This allows us to use reading capabilities in the text file. Before running the program, FYI, if you want to load a text file from a completely separate folder, you'd have to include the directory path of that file along its name in the string. For example, if my PC's downloads folder had kept this text file, then our string inside open function should look like C drive / your PC's name / downloads / mynotes.txt. But this text file already sits in the same folder as our running Python notebook, so you can simply type in mynotes.txt, the file's name, with an open function. In a later tutorial, we'll cover more on processing files in Python, insha'Allah. Alright, let's now run the program. Python's output shows all these text lines coming from mynotes.txt. So what happened? In our code, we first captured our text file as a file object within this variable loaded file, and after setting the open function to read mode with the letter R, we're able to use its read method in the next line of code, printing loadedFile.read brackets. This basically reads out the full contents of your file as a string. If we had used the letter W instead of R within opens mode, we'd have switched to writing mode, where then you can use writing methods to add in new content to the file. There are in fact other modes to choose from, as in this documentation. The link for this guide is in the description below. Notice the last line of code, loadedFile.close. This is needed to avoid potential memory leaks, since the open function keeps your file open in the program. If I remove or comment out the closing part here, rerun the program, it will still run successfully, but our text file is kept open in the PC's memory. This may lead to performance issues like if we keep opening files without closing them, so bringing back .close to finally close your file once you're done reading it. Now switching to the second method of opening files, using the built-in keyword with, recall how we declare if-else conditions and loops. In a similar way, you can declare reading your files with open function as loaded file. So automatically you're assigning the file object to the variable loaded file, and under this is the wid's code block for you to read the contents of the file as done before by printing loadedFile.read. Notice how we did not call .close to close your file. This with statement automatically handles opening and closing our files. So once you're done reading the file and applying other code here inside with statement's code block, the file closes automatically after exiting this code block. Definitely using with is a bit more efficient compared to having called .close on our file previously. Let's continue reading in this code block. Now if you wanted to read only the first few characters of your file, we can set a number within the .reads brackets. For example, loadedFile.read 40 means we're setting a character limit of 40 as a parameter within .read. Also adding in code to check the number of characters we print out with Python's built-in length function. Run the code. Our output shows a tiny chunk of the text file here, confirming that this chunk consists of only the first 40 characters from our loaded file. Now if you want to read your file line by line, then simply use the .readlines method here. Running this will show all the lines of text from our loaded file as a compiled list of strings. So this list has each line of text from our file as a string item. Some of these strings end with the line break \n. So let's read out these lines using a for loop to check if they are printed like the reading format in our text file. Typing for line in loadedFile.readlines, under it print line. Running the code shows the printed lines top to bottom, but with extra vertical space between the lines, compared to the actual reading format in the file. To remove these extra vertical spaces, simply include here .rstrip, within it \n, meaning we will strip out every \n, i.e. line break, that exists at the right end of each line of text here. Running this shows our printed lines matching exactly the reading format in mynotes.txt without any extra vertical space. Alright, another method, just called readline, loads a text line from your file one by one. So .readline is a good use case if you don't want to load all your file's contents. In fact, for much bigger files, your program can get really slow by reading out all its lines of text in one go. So the methods we've used, .read or .readlines before, all read out your contents of the file into memory. To sneak peek at your lines of text one by one is by using iterations like this for loop, where say if we wanted to peek at the first 5 lines of text in the file, keeping a variable before the loop as lines to read equals 5, you can always change this number to read that many text lines via the for loop. Doing this prints out the first 5 lines of text from the file. Let's see what happens if we increase this number, lines to read, and then run the program. With 6, it shows in the output the 6th line of text at the end. Now let's put in 7 and run the program. Alright, there are 7 lines of text here. Now doing so with 8, 9, running 10. Right, so this should be the last line of text. If we still increase the number and run it, it may look like nothing prints after this last line of text. Actually, a blank string is printed since no other content exists after 10 lines of text in our file. If we increased lines to read to 100, then there'll just be a lot of empty strings after the last line in the output. Alrighty, that's all for this tutorial. Inshallah, for the next one, we'll go over writing content into text files. Hope this video helped you. Take care, and assalamu alaikum.